online social media space is a constantly evolving and changing landscape. Technological progress has made it so millions of people all around the globe are just a click away. When asked, what social media do you think has had the biggest impact on society and humanity at large, you might answer Facebook, Instagram, or even Twitter. But you would be wrong. It's a proven fact that humanity reached its peak in 2012 with the launch of the Nintendo Miiverse. Launched in 2012 as a feature of the at the time brand new console, the Wii U, the Miiverse was a social media platform meant to connect Nintendo players from across the globe. Intended to be good old-fashioned wholesome Nintendo fun, the site quickly devolved into chaos with communities at war, discussion pages overrun with role players and e-daters, kids posting really questionable things, and for some reason a lot of chaos in the new Super Luigi U community. So today let's take a look back at the history, community, and legacy of the Nintendo Miiverse. Buckle in. Before we get into things, I just want to give a huge thank you to Surfshark for sponsoring this video. For those not in the know, Surfshark is a VPN that keeps you safe online by encrypting all of your information so your personal data is safe from little coffee shop hacker men or worse, big companies who want to sell all your info. This is especially helpful when traveling or using public Wi-Fi, but even at home it's super useful to have Surfshark making sure all your personal info and download history aren't linked to your identity. Not only is Surfshark great for keeping your data and private info safe, it's great for accessing all kinds of region-locked content. There are tons of different shows that Netflix doesn't have in certain locations. For example, here in New Zealand we don't have Breaking Bad, but with Surfshark I can change my location to America and watch Breaking Bad to my heart's content. There are over 3,200 servers in over 65 countries, so you can access shows, movies, news articles, and more from anywhere in the world. Surfshark doesn't store, monitor, or track what you do, so your activity is always completely private, which in this newfangled digital age is pretty important, it turns out. Surfshark is super great. I love being able to watch all kinds of new stuff I didn't have access to before, and keeping myself safe and private is also pretty great too. Head over to surfshark.deal/weirdweb and enter the promo code WEIRDWEB for 83% off and 3 months for free. Surfshark offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so it's definitely worth checking out. Once again, that's code WEIRDWEB. The link will be in the description below. Thank you so much to Surfshark for sponsoring this video, and now let's get into the story of the Miiverse. Picture this, it's 2012, social media is booming and every company is trying to get in on the action, including Nintendo. Nintendo had been around since 1889, yes you heard that correctly, though during the early days they produced playing cards and toys. They got into the games industry in the 1970s, which is obviously what they're known for today, and they went on to produce world famous consoles like the NES, Nintendo 64, Game Boy, GameCube, Wii, Nintendo DS, and Wii U, which is where our story begins. The Wii U was created as a successor to the Wii, and despite having more high-definition graphics and more extensive online features, the console sold a measly 13.56 million units compared to the Wii's over 100 million, so generally considered a flop. As part of the Wii U's launch and to emphasize the new online play features, the Miiverse was launched, an exclusive Nintendo social media app where players could discuss and share their thoughts on games. Miiverse for browsers was launched in April of 2013 and Miiverse for Nintendo 3DS in December of 2013, though it was far more prevalent on the Wii U since it was built into the console as a core feature. We should probably discuss what the Miiverse actually was beyond the vague notion of it being a social media app of some kind. Miis are basically Nintendo's version of an avatar. You can create and customize your own Wii to look like anything you want, and a lot of players have taken the limited customization options as a challenge to create incredibly weird and complex characters. For example, Peter Griffin, Dinosaur, Batman, and the memor-mii. Once players had created their Mii and connected their console to the internet, they were dropped into Wara Wara Plaza, whereupon hundreds of Miis would swarm onto the screen like it was the end times. These Miis all represented hundreds of players from around the world, and in the plaza players could see what games others were playing as well as their thoughts on them. Speech bubbles would appear above the Mii's heads with posts, comments, and even drawings made by other players about the various games and apps, all taken from the discussion pages of those games. The idea was to make the Wii U feel like a community and give players an idea of what games and topics were popular among their fellow players. You could also spy on the Miis, watching on like a benevolent god as they walked around, talked with each other, and danced, blissfully unaware of your constant presence. But the Wara Wara Plaza was only just scraping the surface of the Miiverse iceberg. To get into the nitty-gritty, we have to actually look at the game community pages. Players could access community pages for all kinds of Nintendo games, and in these communities they could post text posts, game screenshots, and even drawings. From there, other players could give the post a yeah, which is basically a thumbs up, or reply to the post. The whole game community discussion thing was basically meant to be a way for Nintendo users to keep up with all the latest game news and hot topics topics and community posts, but it very quickly went off the rails. See, Miiverse had two main demographics, very young children and trolls. The site became a strange mix of random nonsensical posts made by bewildered 8-year-olds and outrageous inflammatory content, and this created an extremely cursed yet hilarious community.
This game is fun, but I hate my parents.
Is anime over yet? Clarify, please? Has it ended? Anime is a Japanese animation style that has been used for a very long time, and I doubt it'll end anytime soon. Damn.
Okay, fine, I'm a homosexual.
I am looking for a sexy girlfriend. This is Netflix, not eHarmony. Shut up, go outside, and get some game. The name of the game is Your Mom, and let's just say, I'm already playing it. Kid's badass.
If you think about it, Wii U isn't really doing that bad. I mean, they have around 6 million unit sales, and there's only like 7 million people on Earth, so like almost everyone has a Wii U.
2 words. That was hard, but I beat it.
Please friend request and follow me. I am so lonely. Don't just yell it.
Well, what kind of stuff do you like/do? Your mom?
How to annoy an Xbox/PS4 fanboy. Rub the success of the Wii U in their face.
I changed my name to Sir Buttkiss because my old name was so embarrassing. My old name was Anthony.
Imagine if the next gen of Kirby was an anime with 100% fan service, and Kirby be a cute hot high school girl with a hot body and a pink hair, and Kirby was human and then she have the power of copy things. But just see the item instead of eating the item. Also, my fan on Facebook wants a Kirby anime, but Kirby should be a high school girl. I 100% agree with my friend. Please comment your opinions.
Anyone want to chat about? Let me think. Anything. 18 plus. Can I please? I'm only 7.
Today's Amber Day. Let's celebrate a great girl named Amber today. Since yesterday her parents took her 3DS away and all her devices and left Miiverse. She was a great person.
How does Link drive? He can't even talk. He spends his time smashing other people's pots. Who gave him his license? They were not responsible. Who let 5 babies in a dinosaur drive? Dinosaurs shouldn't even be here. They're all dead. Take it back, Samantha. Take it back!
My mother thinks I'm in school, but instead I am hiding in the garden with my Wii U gamepad.
I miss the feeling of love, the sound of the moon showing me true beauty. I think about the time when she turned my loneliness into an addictive feeling of darkness, accepting the light that was meant to exist within me. I feel endless pain when I remember that it was my unforgivable mistake that caused my own horrifying suffering.
I'm a straight male, but damn, Luigi is hot. Have you ever regretted making a comment?
There was also, of course, the infamous "Why can't Metroid crawl" post, which quickly became a meme on both the Miiverse and the internet, with even Nintendo themselves acknowledging it on their Twitter and in their games. Now keep in mind, all of these bonkers posts were going on in game discussion communities. People were doing roleplays and e-dating in communities meant for Mario and Rabbids. The most infamous community for some reason was New Super Luigi U, well known for the sheer volume of off-topic and troll posts to the point where it eventually became the unofficial official shitposting community. It was no longer about New Super Luigi U or anything even remotely related to the game, instead being filled with very early 2010s lit epic memes and troll posts, with the phenomenon even getting its own Kotaku article. Other communities were similarly infamous. For example, the Super Smash Bros community frequently got out of hand and clashed with other communities in quote-unquote wars, including one scuffle dubbed World War Me. Get it? It's clever. One really hilarious phenomenon was the takeover of the air hockey community. There was this game called Air Hockey, and Undertale fans began to use it as an unofficial Undertale discussion board. Completely unrelated to the air hockey game, fans began using the community to post their own thoughts, discussions, and drawings of the game and its characters. This also happened when the Mother fandom took over the pinball community, and communities like YouTube and Smash were basically just used as off-topic shitposting channels, and it was a pretty common phenomenon. Because Miiverse users were restricted to only posting in video game communities, like there was no off-topic or free chat boards, people would basically use small or unpopular games as unofficial official shitposting boards. It was pretty ingenious, though it probably resulted in a lot of confusion when people logged onto a game's community just to find tons of furry and Undertale art. The roleplays that went down on these, again completely unrelated video game discussion boards, were pretty crazy. Fantasy horror RP. Setting: a cabin deep in the forest. A psychopath, Mii, invites you to a sleepover in a cabin and you have to try and survive until dawn. Pokemon High School Romance RP, I will be my OC, Luke the Lucario. Fantasy/High School RP, please join my RP, you can go as your OC or a made up character, here is my OC. Name, Moon, kind, human/wolf, looks, wolf ears and tail that are silver, white eyes, I'm blind, silver cloak, history, princess of her kind, her mother and father died, she is also getting hunted by hunters, that's my OC, please join. While roleplays like this ran rampant on the Miiverse, that all changed with the controversial Miiverse redesign which launched in July of 2015. Among other changes, threads now had a 30 post limit, so roleplays in long threads were no longer viable. Obviously the roleplayers weren't too happy about this. Now you may be wondering how all of this was allowed. Nintendo is a family-friendly company, so it seems weird that they'd let their Wii U social media devolve into such chaos and debauchery. A lot of the blame for this falls on the moderators, who were both extremely strict, banning users for completely innocent and innocuous reasons, and extremely lax, allowing NSFW and very inappropriate posts to stay up. Within the Miiverse community, there was sort of this idea that you'd be banned at least once, no matter what you did, and plenty of users have recounted stories of writing completely innocent posts or politely disagreeing with other users only to get a ban. Most of these were temporary, but with how trigger happy the admins were with the ban hammer, these bans could rack up and result in a permaban. Many theorized that some of the admins were bots, which would explain why they were so quick to ban users without actually looking at the evidence, but as far as I know that was never proven. On the other hand, the admins were also super lax, allowing Miiverse-wide wars and arguments, NSFW trends, inappropriate posts, and sex roleplays to fill the site. For example, Bikini Day, a long-running tradition wherein on the 23rd day of each month, users would post drawings of characters in bikinis. It was basically just an excuse to draw lewd or suggestive art of characters, and despite the vaguely inappropriate content, it was a long-running tradition in the Miiverse. Maid Monday was a similar tradition, and I'm sure you can extrapolate what that was about from the name. Miiverse After Dark, started by an infamous user called The Bard, was another early and prominent movement on the Miiverse, wherein users would post explicit NSFW artwork of characters during times where the admins weren't as active, usually after 12 AM EST. The post was supposedly a way to protest Miiverse's censorship and strict admins, though to be honest I don't think many people that engaged with Miiverse After Dark actually cared that much about the message behind it. I see some sexy Scooby-Doo out on the Miiverse timeline, I'm not stopping to learn about the backstory, I'm giving that shit a yeah. The Bard was actually just one of many influential Miiverse users, and yes, Miiverse influencers were absolutely a thing. Some were famous for innocuous things like Mario Wii U, who became famous after it was noted that all he did was make posts about the graphical quality of water in games. Others were famous for more salacious reasons like Phantasma, a furry artist and troll who gained a cult following after making furry Pokemon Miiverse After Dark art, as well as starting numerous clans and groups. She had such a reputation that her haters came to be known as anti-Fantas, and her catchphrase Nya became a Miiverse-wide trend. Phantasma is hilarious to me because she has a page on the Miiversepedia that is so long and has sections like furry and foes. Another infamous user was Talon. He was once a normal, average guy, but getting banned one too many times made him go Joker mode and become a Miiverse ranter and hacker. All of this is explained on his Miiversepedia page, where he, in first person, explains his life story and the entire timeline of his time on the Miiverse. It all began when I got a Wii U Deluxe Edition during Christmas of 2012. After about a month or so, something happened that changed my life forever. You see, the admins deleted a ton of my drawings for no reason. They were just Nintendo Land drawings that contained no inappropriate content. A couple hours afterwards, I got a 2-week ban. This 2-week ban gave me a fantastic idea. Back in those days, the angry video game nerd was nearly the king of YouTube. Nearly the king. Of course, I knew who AVGN was too. I loved how he would rant about small things in the most exaggerated way. To get back at Nintendo, I decided to create a Miiverse account that did the same thing AVGN did. However, I would only rant about Nintendo. This goes on for about 5 to 10 pages, it's basically an autobiography. There's even a quote section at the bottom, and just from reading this, you can tell this guy is a spicy level 100 redditor. I'm gonna go on the internet and state my opinion, and here comes the flame war. Miiverse, the only thing duct tape can't fix. The Sonic franchise is like a cow, it gets milked way too often. By the way, a lot of this took place during the era of the dank meme, so late epic trolling and Harambe and MLG were funny, which explains a lot of this. We should also touch on Miitomo. For a long time, Miiverse users had been asking Nintendo for a mobile version of the Miiverse, and well, instead they got Miitomo. Miitomo is technically unrelated to the Miiverse and is actually far more similar to the Nintendo game Tomodachi Life, but similarly it was a Nintendo social media app based around Miis. You could customize your Mii and it would ask you questions which you could reply to, and from there your friends could comment on and like it. Naturally, players began replying to these innocuous questions with outrageous and meme answers so they could screenshot it and post it online, and the Miitomo photo feature spawned even more outrageous behavior. Miitomo allowed players to edit photos, adding real pictures, Mii PNGs, text, and special effects, and while this was meant to be used for innocent fun, it spiraled out of control pretty quick. Despite gaining over 10 million global users within just a month of its launch, it was found that only about a quarter of players actually opened the app regularly, and the hype quickly died down. Miitomo was closed in May of 2018, just a few years after its release. But Miitomo wasn't the only Mii-based app shut down, and the beloved Miiverse would face the same fate. The Nintendo Miiverse was shut down on November 7, 2017, 10 AM Pacific time. Users were given about 2 months warning, and in that time they flocked back to the Miiverse to spam, shitpost, and say their goodbyes. Nintendo collated thousands of goodbye drawings containing artwork of anime girls, squid kids, goodbye messages, and photorealistic portraits of Nintendo developers. The drawings were then combined into a mosaic dedicated to saying farewell to the Miiverse, a mosaic which is still circulated around the internet to this day. While Nintendo allowed users to request an archive of their post history, which would be sent in a URL through email, the post history didn't include replies or interactions, and users worried that the Miiverse would be lost. All of the cringy roleplay threads, Miiverse After Dark posts, and community wars would be lost, and the Miiverse in all of its unhinged glory would be forgotten. Nintendo users quickly scrambled to archive the Miiverse, and on January the 3rd, 2018, a web developer called Drastic Actions launched the Archiveverse. The Archiveverse was an archive of the entire Miiverse and contained over 200 million replies, 100 million posts, 75 million screenshots, 72 million drawings, and 8 million user profiles, a total of over 17 terabytes worth of content. This archiving effort was widely praised, as the Archiveverse essentially preserved an entire community that would have otherwise been completely lost. While users could request a copy of their own contained post history, this was an archive of everything: the posts, the replies, the drawings, the profiles, the communities, everything, and the amount that they managed to save is honestly staggering. However, for some, the archive wasn't enough. They simply couldn't live without the Miiverse in their life, and this is where Miiverse clones come into play. According to the Miiverse Clonopedia, which is a real thing, the first documented Miiverse clone came as early as 2013. The Xbox Verse was a browser-based Japanese Miiverse clone where users could post images and drawings, and similarly it quickly devolved into crude dick pics and anime drawings. Also, as a side note, the Xbox Verse wasn't actually related to the Xbox or Xbox Live in any way, it was just a browser site that used Xbox's name for aesthetic purposes. After the closure of Xboxverse, there was a lull in the clone market for several years until the launch of Grape and Closedverse, and this is where the story gets buck wild, and not in a good way. So Grape was the first notable clone created by Miiverse user and hacker Arian Cordy. It replicated the popular pre-2015 redesign interface, which Miiverse users far preferred, though despite this, Grape did not find success and quickly shut down. However, Arian Cordy and collaborator PF2M launched another Miiverse clone called Closedverse, which found huge success. It was developed and launched about 2 months before the closure of Miiverse, so they were able to get in and use the Miiverse for advertising and post all over communities and get a bunch of the users of Miiverse to jump ship. Closedverse would eventually reach over 10,000 users, and for good reason. It took everything users loved about the original Miiverse and improved on it. It gave users the ability to add images and GIFs and edit their posts, more customizable user pages and profile, the ability to draw using colors, and there was no post limit. It was looking like Closedverse would be the perfect site for ex-Miiverse users with its improved features and not just a bot moderation team, but things would very quickly go downhill. The site was plagued with constant bugs and server shutdowns, and the moderation ended up being worse than Miiverse's. The admins moderated the site poorly, with several being corrupt and unprofessional, giving random users admin permissions and haphazardly deleting posts and accounts. Hilariously, they began trying to quote-unquote control the humor of the site because they found users to be unfunny. They started using using bots to control the humor of the site, as well as putting rules in place banning the use of impact font memes. Obviously, their attempt at controlling the literal humor of an entire site by banning unfunny users, while ironically pretty funny, didn't last very long and they eventually gave up on the endeavor. Less funny though was the reveal that Arian Cordy, creator of the site and basically the face of the whole project, was a massive creep, and I'm using that word because the actual word that I want to use would probably get this video demonetized. He was revealed to have been sending extremely inappropriate messages to users as young as 11, even hiring one admin because she sent personal pictures. A DM was leaked by a user where Arian admitted to downloading 17 gigabytes of data from the dark web and feared that some of it might be illegal content. He responded to the user base's rising outrage by confirming that yes, indeed some of it had been CP, but he quote-unquote deleted it. It was also revealed that Arian and other administrators were able to view the private DMs of every user on the site. The hate around him got so bad that an Encyclopedia Dramatica article was written on him, and he became infamous even outside of the Miiverse clone community for being pretty horrible. Shortly after this, Arian stepped down from the public eye and deactivated his account, though he was still technically the owner of the site, and Closedverse was shut down in April of 2019. PF2M revealed that it was because Arian had his computer seized by the police and so the servers had been forcibly shut down. I haven't been able to find any concrete proof of this other than claims by the person running the domain after the site shut down, likely PF2M. They wrote that Arian had admitted everything to the police and handed over his computers, but this didn't result in being sent to jail or juvie and he was allowed to return home. Again, take this with a grain of salt because there's not really anywhere to prove this, so for now it's just hearsay. Closedverse has remained inactive ever since, definitely for the best, and as of 2022 the domain is inactive. Several other Miiverse clones like Indigo, Oasis and UIverse stuck around but failed to reach the popularity that Closedverse did, and so around 2019 to 2020 the era of the Miiverse clone was officially declared to be over as they all shut down. While I do think a lot of these projects had noble intentions, recapturing the magic of the Miiverse and bringing the old community back together, in my opinion I just don't think any of them would have worked. The thing that made Miiverse so special and so cursed was that it was a Nintendo property for the Wii U. Clueless kids who couldn't spell and didn't understand what was going on were logging on and posting nonsense. Others were trolling the Luigi and Mario pages and overwhelming these wholesome communities with anime art and Bikini Day pics. The fact that it was meant to be a simple, wholesome Nintendo game community made it all the more hilarious when the Undertale community swarmed in and kids went on hour-long edgy wolf roleplay threads and people started clans and wars. The Miiverse clones were effectively no different than Reddit with a Miiverse code of paint. All the admins were their epic meme lord Miiverse trolls, and everyone who joined had to intentionally look up the site in their web browser and sign up. It had none of the charm and innocence and hilarity of the original, with people stumbling into the Miiverse and not really knowing what it was for and just kind of doing their own thing, whether it was cringy e-dating, posting about water graphics, fighting with Smash fans, or asking why Metroid can't crawl. Nintendo tried so hard to make it a normal app, but users made it unhinged at every turn, and that's what made it so glorious. Sometimes when you love something you have to let it go. None of these Miiverse clones could have captured the chaotic energy of the original, and that's okay, it was special in its own way. But why exactly did the Miiverse shut down in the first place? Nintendo's official answer read, quote, "We decided to end the service at this time because, among other reasons, many users are shifting to social networking services. Many Miiverse users claim that it was instead because of the rambunctious users constantly breaking the rules in terms of service by posting inappropriate, rude and NSFW posts and drawings. The true answer is likely a combination of both. Moderation for Miiverse was a full-time job, especially with how unhinged the community was, and as far as I'm aware, Nintendo wasn't making any profits on the site. Unlike Miitomo, which had in-app purchases for cosmetic items, Miiverse was completely free with no ads or purchases, which is what made it so great but also very unprofitable. Miiverse was created to help advertise the Wii U and make people want to buy it for its online play features, but by 2017, which uncoincidentally was the year that the Switch released, the Wii U was kind of obsolete. Nintendo already had enough on their plate with the Switch launch, and paying for the Miiverse servers and moderators probably just wasn't worth it. At this point, the Miiverse was likely just a money and resource drain on the company. It's unfortunate, but the reality of most big corporations is that they tend to do what's best for money and not necessarily the user base, so Miiverse was shut down. Still, the Miiverse lives on, both in our hearts and in the modern resurgence of wacky Miiverse posts. There are tons of Twitter accounts and even a whole subreddit dedicated to the horrible and hilarious posts of the Miiverse, and they're frequently circulated all around the internet as memes. In this way, the Miiverse can be appreciated by a whole new generation for its weirdness and wildness. But the Archiverse shows us another side. Miiverse was strange and weird and funny, but it was also just a wholesome community. People made friends and memories together on it, and there's a reason that everyone was so sad when it shut down. The Miiverse was a weird mix of wholesome and totally absolutely bananas content, and that's what made it Miiverse. I hope today that all the X users can look back not with sadness, but with fond nostalgia at all the memor-miis. Get it? I'll see myself out. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I really hope that you enjoyed that video topic. I've been wanting to cover the Miiverse for a while. I find it a really funny topic, so I really hope that you guys enjoyed it. A huge thank you to Mark, Weston, Michael, and Joey for doing voices. They're all amazing. All their links are in the description. Please do go check them out. They're really cool. If you ever have any suggestions for things that you want me to cover in the future, definitely let me know. I'm always open to new video topics and stuff, so yeah, if you have any suggestions, definitely let me know below. Thank you again to Surfshark. Thank you again to you guys for watching. I really hope to see you in the next one. And bye. Thank you so much to my Garfield overlords over on Patreon. Fitzy, Jorge K. Cruz, Michelle Olsen, Matt LRJ, Chicory, Trebizonde, SHSL Sunsun, Doug, Jordan Nielsen, Dana Homegardner, Charlie B, Simon, John Leach, Ren Pendragon, Pom, Agarafin, Xavier Arajo, Helm Hamburger Hand, Lady Cerebellum, Dozo Blint, Sheriff Whiskey, The Furby Librarian, Red Meth, Astrium Vortex, Jesse Chisholm, Sophie Skidder, Brianna Robinson, Grip Gunderson, Jane, Kimono Maijiro, Joe Bradshaw, and Arcantilus. Thank you guys so much for the support. It means the world to me. If you want to join these guys over on Patreon, the link will be in the description. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!